Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to explore an important skill that will transform the way you use English, thinking in English. Many English learners struggle with speaking fluently because they first think in their native language and then translate into English. This process slows them down and makes it difficult to express thoughts naturally. Imagine this situation. You are in an English-speaking country, and someone asks you, "What do you like to do in your free time?" Instead of answering immediately, your mind first translates the question into your native language. Then, you think of your answer in your native language, translate it into English, and finally speak. This whole process takes time and can cause hesitation. But what if you could think in English directly? You would respond faster, more confidently, and more naturally. Why is thinking in English important? Thinking in English is one of the most effective ways to improve fluency and confidence. When you stop translating, your brain processes English more naturally. Here are some key reasons why you should develop this skill. Faster conversations. You will be able to respond quickly and naturally in conversations without pausing to translate. Better pronunciation. Thinking in English helps with correct word stress and rhythm, making your speech sound more natural. Increased confidence. Without worrying about translation, you will feel more comfortable speaking in any situation. Stronger vocabulary and grammar. By thinking in English, you naturally absorb sentence structures and expressions. More enjoyment in learning. When your brain gets used to English, learning becomes fun and effortless. How does thinking in English work? Our brain adapts to the language we use most often. When you constantly think in English, it becomes automatic. Just like a child learning their first language, the more you use English, the more natural it becomes. The goal is to make English your default thinking language in certain situations, like when making decisions, planning your day, or expressing emotions. To help you on this journey, we will go through different strategies and exercises that will make thinking in English easy and natural. But first, let's look at some common challenges learners face when trying to think in English. Why thinking in English is important. Thinking in English is one of the most crucial steps in mastering the language. When we focus on how thinking in English can impact our fluency, confidence, and overall language proficiency, the benefits become clear. Let's take a closer look at why it is so important for learners of all levels. One of the main reasons thinking in English is so important is that it helps you speak faster and more naturally. When you think in your native language first and then translate, it creates unnecessary delays in your response time. This makes conversations slower and can lead to awkward pauses. On the other hand, when you begin thinking directly in English, your responses will flow more smoothly. Instead of translating each word, you'll focus on expressing your thoughts immediately in English, making you sound more fluent and confident. For example, imagine you're having a conversation with a friend in English about your hobbies. If you are translating from your native language, it will take longer to express your ideas. But if you think directly in English, you will be able to keep the conversation going without hesitation. 2. Reduces dependence on translation. When you think in English, you stop relying on translation tools or your native language. This reduces your dependence on dictionaries, online translators, and memory recall of specific words in your first language. With constant practice, you'll know the meaning of words without having to translate them, and this speeds up your learning process. This also allows you to understand the language in its cultural context, improving comprehension. 3. Increases confidence. Imagine speaking English without the constant worry of making mistakes or translating. Thinking in English allows you to speak with more confidence. When you know the words and structures come naturally to you, you will feel more comfortable in any situation. Confidence in speaking is key to overcoming fear and hesitation. If you're always translating, you may feel anxious because you're constantly trying to remember the correct words. But by thinking in English, the words come effortlessly, and you will speak with more self-assurance. 4. strengthens vocabulary and grammar. When you think in English, your brain gets used to the language's sentence structures, grammar rules, and vocabulary. Over time, you'll begin to absorb English naturally, and you won't need to focus on remembering every rule or new word. Your language skills will become more intuitive. For example, when you describe something in English, you will automatically choose the right tense, word order, and vocabulary without second-guessing yourself. This helps you speak more fluently and correctly. 5. Improves cultural understanding. Thinking in English isn't just about words and grammar. It also involves understanding the culture and context in which the language is used. By thinking in English, you can begin to understand idioms, expressions, humor, and cultural references more easily. This helps you connect with English speakers more naturally and express yourself in a way that resonates with them. Challenges in thinking in English. While the benefits of thinking in English are clear, it's important to recognize that there are several challenges learners face when trying to make this transition. Understanding these challenges will help you overcome them more effectively and continue progressing toward fluency. Let's explore the most common obstacles to thinking in English and how you can deal with them. 1. Habit of translating from your native language. One of the biggest challenges in thinking in English is the habit of translating from your native language. When you first start learning English, it's natural to rely on your first language as a bridge to understand new vocabulary and structures. However, this habit can become a barrier as you progress. Translation slows down your thinking process and creates unnecessary mental steps between understanding and speaking. To overcome this challenge, it's important to stop translating word by word. Try to focus on the meaning of the sentence as a whole instead of converting each word into your native language. Start thinking in English by practicing basic phrases and gradually increase the complexity of your thoughts. The more you practice this, the more natural it will become. 2. Lack of vocabulary and expressions. When you don't have enough vocabulary, thinking in English can feel difficult. You may find yourself pausing in the middle of a thought, struggling to find the right words. This can be frustrating and may cause you to switch back to your native language for comfort. To overcome this, it's important to expand your vocabulary. Learn words and phrases in context, not just in isolation. Use them in different situations so you can remember them better. Reading books, watching movies, and listening to podcasts in English are excellent ways to improve your vocabulary and expose yourself to a wide range of expressions. 3. Fear of making mistakes. Many learners fear making mistakes when speaking or thinking in English. This fear can lead to self-doubt and hesitation, making it harder to think in English freely. If you're afraid of making errors, you might find yourself reverting to your native language or avoiding English altogether. The key to overcoming this fear is to embrace mistakes as part of the learning process. Mistakes are normal and even necessary for improvement. By accepting that errors happen, you will gain the courage to keep thinking and speaking in English without hesitation. Remember, the more you practice, the fewer mistakes you will make over time. 4. Limited practice opportunities. Another challenge is having limited opportunities to practice thinking in English. If you live in a non-English speaking environment or don't have many English-speaking friends, it can be difficult to immerse yourself in the language. Without regular practice, it becomes harder to form the habit of thinking in English. To overcome this challenge, you need to find creative ways to practice. Change the language settings on your phone, computer, and social media accounts to English. Surround yourself with English language content like TV shows, books, and podcasts. Even if you don't have an English-speaking environment around you, you can still create one by practicing on your own. 5. Lack of confidence. Sometimes learners struggle with thinking in English because they lack confidence in their language skills. They may feel like their English isn't good enough, so they avoid thinking in English altogether. This lack of confidence can create a mental block that prevents progress. Building confidence comes with consistent practice and self-compassion. Don't judge yourself too harshly and celebrate small victories along the way. Remember, thinking in English is a skill that improves over time, and the more you practice, the more confident you will become. Practical strategies to think in English. Now that we've covered why thinking in English is important and some of the challenges you might face, it's time to dive into practical strategies that will help you make thinking in English a natural part of your daily life. These strategies will guide you through the process and give you the tools to think in English more confidently and effortlessly. Or build your English mindset. The first step to thinking in English is changing your mindset. Instead of seeing English as a foreign language you need to translate, start thinking of it as a part of your daily life. Here's how to do it. Start with simple thoughts. Begin by thinking in English about simple things like your daily routines. For example, when you wake up, instead of thinking, "I need to get out of bed" in your native language, say it in English. "I need to get out of bed now." The key is to start small and make it a habit. Think in English in real-life situations. When you're out shopping, try thinking about your shopping list in English. For example, "I need to buy bread, milk, and fruit." When you're walking outside, think about what you see in English. There is a car, a tree, and a dog. The more you think in English during everyday activities, the more natural it will feel. B. Expand vocabulary and expressions. A wide vocabulary is essential for thinking in English. The more words you know, the easier it is to express your thoughts in the language. Here are some ways to expand your vocabulary and use it to think more effectively in English. Learn words in context. Instead of memorizing vocabulary lists, learn new words in context. For example, instead of just memorizing the word delicious, learn phrases like "the food is delicious" or "that cake looks delicious." This helps you remember how to use the word naturally. Use English-English dictionaries. Using an English-English dictionary helps you understand the meaning of words without relying on translations. It forces you to think in English, as you are not translating the word into your native language. Practice common phrases and expressions. Phrases like, "How's it going?" or "I can't wait" are commonly used in everyday English. By learning these expressions, you will start to think in ready-made English structures, which speeds up your ability to think and speak more naturally. C. Use visualization techniques. Visualization is a powerful tool for thinking in English. By visualizing situations and describing them in English, you'll practice forming thoughts directly in the language. Here are some ways to use visualization. Picture descriptions. Look at pictures or photographs and describe them in English. For example, if you see a picture of a park, you could think, "There are children playing. A man is walking a dog. The sky is clear." Try to do this quickly without translating, focusing on the first words that come to mind in English. Mental rehearsal. Think about what you'll do in the future in English. For example, before going to a store, think, "I'll buy groceries." "I will ask the cashier where the bread is." This mental rehearsal helps you plan what you're going to say and do, and it trains your brain to think directly in English. D. Engage in self-talk and thinking exercises. Self-talk is a great way to practice thinking in English. Talking to yourself, even if it's just in your mind, can improve your ability to form thoughts in English. Here's how you can practice self-talk. Describe your day. In the morning or at the end of the day, describe what you've done in English. For example, "I woke up at 7 a.m., I had breakfast, then I went to work." This simple practice can help you form sentences in English without the need to translate. Talk to yourself in English. When you're alone or doing activities like cleaning or cooking, talk to yourself in English. For example, "I'm washing the dishes now. I need to clean the table." You can also ask yourself questions and answer in English, such as, "What should I do next?" or "What's for lunch today?" E. Immerse yourself in an English environment. Immersion is one of the most effective ways to get comfortable with thinking in English. Surrounding yourself with English in everyday life will train your brain to use it more naturally. Here are some ways to immerse yourself. Change device settings to English. Change the language settings on your phone, computer, and social media accounts to English. This will force you to interact with the language every day in a practical context. Watch TV shows and movies in English. Try to watch your favorite TV shows or movies without subtitles or with English subtitles. This will help you connect spoken English with visual cues and improve your listening skills. Practice with native speakers. If possible, find native English speakers to practice with. This will push you to think in English during conversations. If you don't have access to native speakers, try language exchange programs or online platforms where you can chat with other learners in English. Interactive activity. Thinking in English practice. Now that we've covered the importance of thinking in English, the challenges you might face, and the strategies you can use, it's time to put everything into action. The best way to improve your ability to think in English is through interactive activities that help you practice regularly. Here's an activity that will challenge you to think in English and get you used to forming thoughts in the language. Activity 1. Daily Thought Mapping. Goal: to practice thinking in English about different aspects of your daily life. Instructions: choose a time of day. Pick a time each day when you will complete this activity. For example, you can do it in the morning after waking up or at night before going to bed. Make it a part of your routine. Pick a focus area. Choose one of the following focus areas to think about in English. Your morning routine. What do you do when you wake up? Your plans for the day. What do you need to do? A situation you are anticipating. A meeting, a class, a phone call. A memory. Something that happened today or in the past. Write it down. Write down your thoughts in English, focusing on the details. Don't worry about grammar mistakes. Just focus on getting your thoughts on paper in English. For example, if you are describing your morning routine, you could write, I wake up at 7 a.m. I get out of bed and brush my teeth. After that, I have breakfast. I like to eat cereal and drink coffee. I usually watch the news while eating. Try to think without translating. As you write, focus on thinking directly in English. Avoid translating words from your native language. Let the words come to you naturally in English. This will help you get used to expressing thoughts without needing to pause or translate. Review your day. Before going to bed, review the activities you completed and see if you can describe them in English. Try to describe everything you did, including how you felt, what you learned, and any interesting moments. Challenge: try to write at least one paragraph each day without relying on a dictionary or translation tools. The more you practice, the easier it will become. Activity 2. Visual thinking. Goal: to enhance your ability to think in English using pictures and visual prompts. Instructions: find a picture or image. Look for a picture from a magazine, a book, or an online source. It could be a picture of a park, a city, a group of people, or even an object. Describe the picture in English. Spend a few minutes looking at the picture and describe what you see in English. Focus on the details: colors, people, activities, emotions, and anything else that stands out. For example, if you see a picture of a park. In the park, there are many people. Some are walking dogs and others are sitting on benches. The sun is shining and there are a few clouds in the sky. A child is playing with a ball and a woman is reading a book on a bench. Expand your thoughts. After you describe the picture, ask yourself questions in English about it. What do you think the people in the picture are doing? What do you think will happen next? You can also imagine stories around the picture and try to tell them in English. Use this activity regularly. Make it a daily habit to choose a picture and describe it in English. Try to do it without looking up words in your native language, and challenge yourself to use new vocabulary or expressions you've learned. Challenge: try describing at least 3 different pictures each week. The more you practice visual thinking, the more fluent you'll become in expressing your thoughts in English. Activity 3. Role-play conversations. Goal: to practice thinking in English in real-life situations. Instructions: choose a scenario. Pick a common situation that you might experience in real life, such as ordering food at a restaurant, making a phone call, or asking for directions. Write down a short dialogue or situation based on that. For example, scenario: ordering food at a restaurant. Waiter: hello, how are you today? You: I'm fine, thank you. I'd like to order, please. Waiter: of course. What would you like to have? You: I'll have the chicken salad and a glass of water, please. Role play with yourself or a partner. Practice both roles, the customer and the waiter, in English. If you have a study partner or a friend, you can practice together by taking turns. The goal is to simulate a real conversation where you don't have time to translate, forcing you to think and speak in English. Improve your fluency. As you get comfortable with the role play, try to make the conversation more natural and spontaneous. Add questions or small talk to make the interaction more realistic. Challenge: try role-playing 2 to 3 different scenarios each week. This will help you practice thinking quickly in English and make it easier to use English in real-life situations. Activity 4. Journaling in English. Goal: to practice free-flowing thoughts in English. Instructions: set aside time for journaling. Dedicate 10 to 15 minutes each day to write in your journal. The goal is to express your thoughts in English without worrying about grammar or spelling mistakes. Write about anything. Don't limit yourself to specific topics. You can write about your day, your feelings, your dreams, or your goals. The idea is to get your thoughts down in English and practice thinking in the language. Review and reflect. After you write, take a few minutes to read through your journal, reflect on your use of language, and see if there are any areas where you can improve or expand your vocabulary. Challenge: aim to write in your journal every day, even if it's just a short entry. Over time, you'll find it easier to think and write in English naturally. Summary: how to think in English. In this lecture, we've explored how to develop the ability to think in English, which is one of the most effective ways to improve fluency and communication skills in the language. Let's review the key points we've discussed. 1. Importance of thinking in English. Thinking in English is essential because it helps you speak and understand the language more naturally. When you start thinking directly in English, you remove the need to translate from your native language, making your speaking and listening much smoother. It also helps you build fluency by allowing you to access the language quickly, leading to faster and more confident conversations. 2. Challenges in thinking in English. It's not always easy to switch from thinking in your native language to thinking in English. Common challenges include translating words, struggling with vocabulary, and feeling unsure about grammar and sentence structures. However, these challenges can be overcome with practice and patience. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. 3. Practical strategies to think in English. We discussed several practical strategies to help you improve your ability to think in English. Build an English mindset by thinking about simple tasks and routines in English, even in everyday situations. Expand your vocabulary by learning words and phrases in context, using an English dictionary, and practicing common expressions. Use visualization techniques by describing pictures or imagining real-life scenarios in English to make it easier to think about them in the language. Engage in self-talk by talking to yourself in English throughout the day, describing your actions or thoughts. Immerse yourself in English by changing device settings, watching content in English, and interacting with native speakers or other learners. 4th, interactive activity. To practice thinking in English, we introduced several interactive activities. Daily thought mapping. Regularly write down your thoughts in English about different aspects of your day, helping you build a habit of thinking in English. Visual thinking. Use pictures to stimulate your thoughts and describe what you see in English, helping you practice thinking about the world around you. Role-playing. Simulate real-life situations and practice conversations in English to improve your fluency and spontaneity. Journaling. Write a daily journal in English to express your thoughts freely and reflect on your progress. Next steps. To make thinking in English a natural part of your life, make a habit of incorporating these strategies and activities into your daily routine. Remember, consistent practice is key. Be patient with yourself, and don't worry about making mistakes. It's all part of the learning process. Over time, thinking in English will become easier, and your fluency will improve significantly. By following these strategies and committing to regular practice, you'll find that thinking in English becomes second nature, allowing you to speak with more confidence and ease. Now, it's time to start putting these techniques into action and watch your English skills grow.